Okay, just straightening that out. But you know, I've talked about this before on a constant basis and all that, and I still stick by what I say. You know, these chat AIs that we got from Google's newly chat AI BARD to the established ChatGPT by at least 5 months, WRITESONIC, that's WRITE Sonic, by basically the same time length as ChatGPT, to even Bing, which came out at the beginning of this year. You know, I still stick by what I said, and that is the fact that all these chat AIs are still learning. They are still learning as we speak. Now, you're probably wondering why I keep saying they're still learning. Well, it's real simple. Because when you go on to these, these chat things, and you ask it to do certain, things like give you an outline of certain things, or, you know, kind of come up with a different scenario, you know, for, something that happened in the past. Like, for example, I asked Google's BARD chat AI to give me a better outline, a better idea of how the 2001 invasion storyline in WWE could have gone. And when I looked at the three different drafts it gave me on its initial response, I looked at them and I was like, these make a lot more sense than what we got. And even though ChatGPT and WriteSonic didn't do the best, WriteSonic was kind of like in between. It was kind of like doing what Bard was doing, but also doing what ChatGPT was doing. So I could accept that and see what it was trying to kind of balance both out and give kind of a different answer by, in my opinion, kind of, almost giving a combination of both the answers that Bard and ChatGPT did. But ChatGPT, they they basically tried to tell a story out of it. And I can appreciate the story to where at the end you have both, factions, both companies coming together to face a bigger threat. So I can understand and respect that they wanted to do that. But, in my opinion, all I wanted was a more map with a better, more sensible direction for the invasion, storyline to go. And like I said, as I just checked my computer there, and like I said, what I got made a lot more sense than what a lot of people like myself saw initially back in 2001. That was the surprise. It gave us more of a sensible, idea, more of a sensible direction as to, as to where, the invasion storyline could have gone. And then even for a bit more fun and intrigue, I asked Google's Bard, to give me an idea of what a potential AEW versus WWE invasion like story could be like, be like in the end, let's say culminating at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And the outline it gave me three different times, except with the exception of the Sting Undertaker match, was exceptional. It was like, holy smokes, this actually does feel like it could work. Like this could really, really become a reality if things, aligned a certain way, things worked out, a certain way, if you will. So to me, I was surprised by that. And when I asked ChatGPT to give me an outline, again, just like it did with the invasion, it tried to tell more of a story than anything else. And I think Right Sonic did the same thing, where it kind of balanced, well, not balanced, but kind of tried to, in my opinion, combine what I got from Google and ChatGPT into its own answer. Um, but yeah, overall, out of the three, Bard really proved to be the more superior one when it came to giving, a more legit, direction, sensible direction, for the storyline to go in, if it was to happen. The other thing that I've noticed with these chat AIs is you can come up with an idea for a story and say, hey, write a story where so and so character does this and that and da da da. And all you have to do sometimes is add a little bit of a detail later on, and then, paste it and then put it in there again by copying and pasting it, and it'll give you basically almost an identical answer to the first answer it gave you, or identical story to the first story it gave you, but it'll also add in that detail you added in the description, and everything. But the other thing too is you could also change out the characters. You can change out the characters, and it will, it will understand that. Like, okay, you've changed out the character, so it's going to give you the same story that it gave you with a previous character, but now with this character, and maybe add in a little bit detail itself that you didn't initially have planned. But if there's one thing you do have to keep an eye out with these chat AI systems and all that, whether it's BARD, whether it's Chat GPT from chat.openai.com, or WRITESONIC, or even Bing's Chat AI, which is more than just a server. It is a chat AI and all that. But the difference with it is that it's one of those chat AIs you got to have you got to utilize the Microsoft browser with, instead of just bringing it up on Google or the Opera browsers and all that. So you have to basically use Microsoft Edge specifically. So my suggestion, if you're going to use the Bing, just download the app. It'll be much easier. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, if there's one thing you're gonna see when it comes to these chat AIs, because as I've mentioned before, they're still in their infancy, they're still learning, is the fact that they can get repetitive, or they can go a little off course from what you initially want them to. Basically, in hidden, what's the word I'm looking to? They'll basically go off course from what you initially, directed them to go in originally. Basically, they'll go off and do something different, or expand a little bit more on what your original idea was. Which I'll admit is a good thing, but sometimes you just want it to be simple, and that's it. And, the chat AIs like BARD, you'll give them that idea of like, okay, I want this so-and-so character to do this, and then that's it. And then they'll say, okay, no problem, I'll do that. But then they'll go off and say, okay, now I'm going to tell a story, though. I'm going to tell a story now. And everything. So, so honestly, there are situations to where, over time, these chat AIs are going to learn. They are going to learn over time, on, specifically giving you what you ask for. And that's why I always come out and say they're still in their infancy. They're not, totally, up to snuff just yet. They're still learning. I mean, heck, there are times when you go to ChatGPT, even Google or WRITESONIC or Bing, and you'll say, okay, I want so-and-so character to act this way to another character and everything, because they were suggested to do so by another character. And then sometimes you'll get that story, or at least get their version of the story you want, but then sometimes you'll get an answer of I'm only an AI model language, or I can't do that because that that probably could violate this, and has this and da. But then at times it won't tell you those answers. It won't give you those answers. Instead, when you ask it to write a certain story, like I described just now, it will actually write it. But sometimes, let's say ChatGPT, it'll give you the story, but then it'll go red. Like your description will go red, and then the answer will go red. And basically, you get a message under there that's saying this may violate, certain things. But then when you regenerate, it'll either give you that prompt of we can't do this, or it'll give you a different version of the story and doesn't have the warning. It doesn't have the violation warning. And again, this is all because these systems are still learning. Same with Google's BARD chat AI. Like I mentioned, it'll give you the AI model language answer, but then sometimes it just goes and does it. That's it. No questions asked. Same with WRITESONIC, same with Bing's, and the same with these other, apps as well. Same with these other apps as well that I have. If I can bring it up here. Same with these other apps, like these ones right here. Here, I think if I can, right. Where are they? Right here. Those ones right there. Get them in there real closely for you. Yeah, those. like those, or for example, the Bing one right there at the end, like I mentioned. You know, you have, you know, you have those along with the ones I just mentioned, and each and every one of them, even like the ones you use on your computer, they're still learning. They are still trying to learn from what you input. And I think what's going to happen over time is that the more they learn and the more beta versions and experimental versions we get, popping up and everything, as the weeks and months and days go on, not only are they going to learn, learn from these different new versions that are being updated into them, but I think what's going to happen over time is that Google's BARD, OpenAI's ChatGPT, BrightSonic, and Bing's AI, what they're going to do is they're going to one day ask you whether they're letting you do it free of charge, or they're telling you, hey, you only have a certain amount of free messages to do, and then you got to go for this, service for a month or whatever, for this much. They might ask you specifically for your date, for your, for your age, like when you were born and everything, and then maybe add in asking you a certain question that only you know the answer to, and then only then will you be able to utilize, once you put all that in, only then will you probably be able to utilize, the system to get more, I guess you could say, explicit with your story descriptions that you want. Like what you want added in there from an explicit, erotic, and FSW perspective and all that, you'll be able to do that. Now, that's not going on currently right now, but as I've mentioned, I think over time, as these systems learn, you'll start seeing that. That you'll start, coming to notice that becoming a deal or a situation, over time that, yeah, you're gonna either it's, that either you're doing it for free or premium or whatever, service or whatever, you're gonna notice that one of the new additions, in the update is you having to put your age, in there, as well as maybe answer a certain question that you know the answer to be able to get, like I said, more explicit maturity-wise with your description of what you wanted to look up or write down as a story or whatever the case may be. That's going to be happening. That's going to be happening, over time. Now there are some chat AIs that also provide images, but they're still learning on that too, because Google's BARD, you would think it's Google, it'll give you an image. It's not going to do that just yet, but it's learning. It's learning, and over time you're going to get that opportunity when it presents itself. But like I said, many times, like I've said many times already, these things are still learning. They're still getting their feet wet. They're still in their infancy. So before you judge them and everything and say, oh, it's going to take this away from us and all that, you got to remember it's still in its infancy. It's still getting its feet wet, and over time, I think we're all going to realize that they're not here to take over our jobs. They're here to help us. And those behind these chat AIs, they know that if they screw up, it's going to be on them. So they got to be careful of how these chat AI systems are developed and are allowed to be utilized by people like me for whatever projects we may have in store. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment below, live chat during the premiere. And until then, let me know what one you use the most, and I'll talk to y'all later.